Speaking to what is overwhelmingly a white supremacist audience in Illinois in 1858, had Lincoln no interest whatsoever in any form of racial equality, then his path would have best been determined to be one of staying away from the subject at all. And yet he insists on prodding the raw nerves of white supremacy by insisting upon the natural right of all people together. And that is the basis of his opposition to slavery. I think in time to come we see in Lincoln, especially Lincoln as president, especially Lincoln as commander-in-chief of black troops in the Civil War, a man who understands that one cannot ask people to risk their lives without at the same time granting them civil equality as well as natural equality in the regime they have come to put their lives on the line for. But that happens after 1858. So there are many things we know about the Lincoln-Douglas debates, and some of them actually turn out to be true. But it's also true that there were many more surprises than confirmations of what we thought we knew in the Lincoln-Douglas debates. Lincoln was not, in fact, as little known as we think. True, he was little known outside of Illinois, but not in Illinois. There he was well known as a political figure, and to run him against Douglas was, in fact, a very logical choice for the Illinois Republicans. Yes, Lincoln did run against Douglas, but in fact, Lincoln and Douglas were running against others in that election. Lincoln was running against ambitious members of his own party who thought that they would be better candidates than he did, and who did nothing to support him and sometimes things to undermine him. Douglas was running against the leadership of his own party, which had disowned him. Lincoln was even, to a certain extent, running against members of his old party, the Whig Party, whom he had to convince to rally around his new anti-slavery colleagues. And Lincoln probably did win the debates on points, but of course nobody was keeping points. And the reportage in the newspapers was radically partisan, depending on the political loyalty of the editor. So that, for the same debate, we find a Democratic newspaper assuring us that Lincoln's performance in the debate was terrible, awful, and just plain bad. Whereas a Republican paper, reporting on the very same debate and the very same words, would believe that Lincoln had uttered words of such glowing and incandescent eloquence that everyone in Illinois should be persuaded by them. Sometimes when you read the newspaper reports of these debates, you almost can't tell if the reporters were the same debate. And you thought reporting today lacked a measure of objectivity. The debates, we also have to say, were nastier than we sometimes imagine. Stephen A. Douglas plays the race card, in this case the white supremacy race card, relentlessly. And when I say relentlessly, I mean relentlessly to the point that would make a Ku Klux Klansman blush. He also plays the gender card, and you thought that was something new. But so does Lincoln. There are eruptions in the crowds. There is baiting back and forth. There are hecklers. Douglas, in fact, is heckled at Freeport, and he heckles the crowd right back. He walks out to the front of the stage and says, "I see the shoe is pinching you. You see, I've got Lincoln in a close place. Well, I know what you mobs are like, and I defy your wrath." It's not exactly what we expect from presidential candidates at meetings today. There was even, in this contest in 1858, an October surprise. Lincoln had hoped to win to his side the old-time Whigs of Illinois, but Stephen A. Douglas had obtained a critical endorsement letter from one of the great leaders of the old Whig Party, John J. Crittenden. He obtained that letter in July, and he held it until the 19th of October, and then released it for publication, leaving Lincoln, of course, no time to reply before Election Day. And that letter swayed many old Whigs who might ordinarily have voted Republican to instead support Douglas. But maybe the most important surprise, maybe the most important thing we need to learn from the Lincoln-Douglas debates that we don't know or don't even think that we know concerns the dramatically different notions of slavery and democracy that both Lincoln and Douglas talked about and stood for. For Stephen A. Douglas, the slavery controversy was a controversy. And therefore, the most important thing was to get it off the stage of political debate. The slavery controversy, as a controversy, was paralyzing Congress. It was causing contention and bloodshed in the territories. Therefore, you deal with it as you deal with any controversy. You diffuse it, you get it off the stage, you get it out in the territories where popular sovereignty can take responsibility for it. For Lincoln, the problem with the slavery controversy was slavery. That as much as you tried to deal with the controversy, that was merely putting Band-Aids on symptoms. That the real nexus of the problem was slavery itself, and that this controversy would never go away until the country made up its mind what it wanted to do with slavery. In his opening speech of the campaign, June of 1858, Lincoln said, "We are now 5 years advanced into a policy which confidently assured us," and this was Douglas's popular sovereignty policy, "that the controversy over slavery is going to be laid to rest." 5 years on, not only has it not been laid to rest, but it's now more of a controversy than ever before. How can we not care about a controversy that in fact everybody cares deeply about? Lincoln demanded. It was not the controversy that was the problem, it was slavery, and that had to be addressed directly. But that only led both of them to ask the larger question then. What exactly is it that democracy is supposed to be about? Is democracy supposed to take on issues like slavery and ask whether they're right or wrong? For Stephen A. Douglas, democracy was an end in itself. Democracy was about process. It was about procedure. Democracy was where you held an issue up for public debate, you took a poll, a referendum, a vote, and depending on what 51% of the people wanted to do, that's what you did. You didn't ask whether it was right or wrong. If 51% of the people wanted slavery, well then legalize it. Douglas himself said on the floor of the Senate, "I don't care whether slavery in the territories is voted up or voted down, so long as the process is observed." And for many of us, that is the safe way of going about democracy. Don't muddy the waters, we say, with issues about ethics, with issues about religion, with questions of right or wrong, because those are private and personal concerns and should not be allowed to trespass on the public square. After all, is not religion a private matter? Is not ethics relative from person to person? Who can speak with authority about right and wrong? So democracy should confine itself to speaking about what the right process is. And if 51% of the people want to vote for something that some others deem wrong, well, those who deem it wrong should simply go home and nurse their grievance. But in the public square, we will do what the majority wants. Is not that democracy? Lincoln insisted that no one loved democracy more than he did. But in Lincoln's view of things, democracy is not an end in itself. Democracy is a means. It's a wonderful, a right, a glorious means. It is a natural means, but it is only a means, and a means toward realizing the natural rights inherent in every human being and articulated in the Declaration of Independence. What is the purpose of a democracy? What is the purpose of popular government? Except to secure those natural rights, except to do what is the right thing. If the purpose of democracy is merely to sanction what is wrong, then democracy will very soon rot out from within.